Hello. Congratulations in these wild times for continuing to host this innovative conference using virtual reality technology on the topic of virtual reality itself. I'd like to talk for a few minutes about initiatives going on around the world to enhance the human aspect of low carbon, long distance conferencing, which is a highly relevant topic, both because of the climate emergency and because of COVID-19 and the epidemiological emergency. Um, the innovations going on here in connection with virtual reality and conferencing are just one part of a larger picture. So let's take a moment and step back. Low carbon research meetings is an area of innovation that includes not just virtual reality, but also better video conferencing. And the main topic of our initiative at Tufts University with some collaborators on hybrid conferencing that include an in-person element, but also have connections across multiple sites, allowing the preservation of the experience of an in-person event with substantially less flying required. Even all of this effort on low carbon research meetings is itself only one part of transforming research in academics. You can think about not just the research meetings, but also all the reasons why academics and researchers travel and how by thinking a little cleverly about what maintains high quality of life and maintains our connection to remote colleagues, perhaps by long distance tours that string together a number of meetings all at the same time. I think if we can recover some of these ways of living that were common to 19th century scholars and researchers, we could innovate by looking backwards in a way that suits our challenges heading forwards. Even transforming research and academics is only one part of a larger picture because academics and research as a share of the total economy is fairly small. We need to think about what are we doing and how does it fit into a larger perspective connected with transforming each sector of the economy, including especially the energy sector. I'm an agricultural economist by training, so I have a special interest in transforming the food system. All of these changes are essential if humanity is going to have any hope of meeting the emissions targets that we have for changes in mean temperature of 1.5 degrees change or 2 degrees change. Aviation is important in all aspects of this because if we leave it unchanged, it could soon consume 12 to 25% of the 1.5 degrees Celsius carbon budget. This is larger than many people, even in this audience, may have realized. But I think that the smaller statistics that one sometimes hears are misleading for a couple reasons. They may be outdated. They may include just the fuel burn from the jet engines and not all of the aspects of aviation that are relevant in a life cycle setting. But also, they're not really what's relevant to people in comparatively high income settings, such as Europe and the United States, where flying is a much larger fraction of the total economy than it is globally. Energy footprints have a large inequality, and for the comparatively high income communities that have substantially higher energy footprints, flying is especially important. And I know that a lot of us have hopes that maybe we don't actually have to change the consumption side of the equation because offsetting methods of different types would work. But having looked into this, we've got a thought piece posted to our blog on the Flying Less initiative. And I would encourage people with the current state of carbon markets not to put much credence in them at this time, although there's some potential at some point in the future. We encourage universities and professional associations to take steps, reasonable steps. Consider what's being asked of universities just to set goals and measure progress as part of their annual sustainability reporting for all of the emissions that they do, including flying, not with an exaggerated role, but just in its appropriate place quantitatively as you think about all of the emissions involved in university and research life. And the same is true for academic and professional associations that host conference. It's possible to think strategically about how we can set goals and measure progress for how much emissions we're going to do in our conferencing. And I think if we do this as reasonable and quantitative people, it's not going to lead to zero flying, but it's going to lead to substantially less flying than is the common practice today. There are so many ways to incorporate a lower flying culture into our academic and research life. It's not just about the low carbon research meetings, it's also about increasing research and writing time, perhaps continuing to do in-person meetings, but having them be every other year rather than every year. There's just innovations possible at every step along the chain of what decisions are required for the way we conduct our work life. But low carbon research meetings are an important part of it. As I said, there's multiple types of low carbon research meetings. Among better online conferencing options, especially taken with the nearly carbon neutral format developed by clever people at the University of California, Santa Barbara. For hybrid conferences, our own initiative owes a big intellectual debt to the people at Uni Graz in Austria, especially Professor Richard Parnkut, and his professional association, which is in music and psychology of all things, a year and a half ago, had a major multi-continental hub-based hybrid conference with hubs on several conferences linked simultaneously, including for multiple aspects of the conference. In our own initiative, we're piloting an effort sometime next fall. I was going to say early next fall, but as you can imagine, things are already in transition and the schedule is a little bit up in the air. But we're thinking about having multiple university partners and at each site having a real in-person event, but connecting them in several ways. Most straightforward with current technology is to connect the keynote presentations. Almost no innovation is needed in order to do that. But panel discussions where you can seamlessly include different numbers of panelists from the different sites. And then especially, I think receptions and social settings need particular amounts of innovation. For some way, I think if we could get researchers and academics to be confident that having a lower carbon lifestyle does not mean they failed to get their wine at the end of the conference day with their colleagues, I think this is all going to be an easier sell. And finally, online participation. I'm thinking of Blair McIntyre, who played a big role in organizing this conference. He's been advising us on ways of including virtual reality into our own multi-site conferencing initiative. And you could just see that especially for conferences that include some role for in-person participants, but also have remote participants who are watching from afar and want themselves, each in their own locations, to have the sense of being a genuine participant, that there's immense potential in this type of hybrid virtual reality and in-person conference. So in conclusion, innovative conferences can greatly reduce flying in a time of climate emergency and a time of coronavirus emergency, while preserving what connects us to each other. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.